Today, using Quilt Layout, a portion of the Quiltmagine program, I'm going to design a quilt top right on my software. I will open Quiltmagine. Because I'm actually working at my desk and not at the machine right now, it's asked me about continuing in the simulation mode. I'm going to click OK. It says be sure to disconnect the computer USB cable when in simulation mode. No problem, I'm at my desk. Our main screen opens up. We see that Quilt Layout is found in two portions of the program, under Design and Create and under Select and Sew. In the Design and Create portion of the program, we're actually going to design the layout of our quilt top. If we were to go over to Quilt Layout under Select and Sew, I would be choosing a quilt layout and then selecting portions of the layout to sew out on my quilt top. Going back and selecting Quilt Layout underneath Design and Create. Our screen opens up with a grid already pre-formatted for us, but that's not exactly what my quilt looks like. So I'm going to change the layout of this quilt top by selecting Size, the top right tab on the right hand side. Brings up a box that I can determine the size of my blocks, the number of blocks that I have across and down. The quilt that we're going to be working on has 3 across and 4 down, and the size of my blocks are 12 inches high and 12 inches wide. Now I see that the screen in the background here has changed to the parameters that I've indicated, 3 across and 4 down, and change the block size to 12 inches. I will say OK. Before filling in our blocks with actual patterns, let's take a look at what we have on our screen here as far as our designing options. You'll notice that at each of the 4 corners of our design screen, there's a little tab that we can click on. Let's go around the box and click on these. If I click on the one at the top left, I can highlight all of the blocks inside. Clicking on it again, it clears all of the blocks inside. On the top right hand corner, you'll notice that it looks blue all the way around the outside and clear or white in the middle. When I click on it, those blocks around the outside of our quilt top are highlighted. And if I click on it again, it goes to the 4 corners. And then it does the other blocks around the outside. To get it back to our main clear screen, let's just tap on the top left-hand corner. The bottom left-hand corner looks like a 4 patch. Let's see what that does. It does every other block. If I tap on it again, it switches to the alternate blocks. Clearing that out at the top left-hand corner. Clicking on the bottom right-hand corner, we've selected everything. We're clearing everything. Alright, let's go ahead and select a pattern and place the pattern into our quilt top. The quilt that I'm going to be quilting has alternate blocks, plain blocks alternated with blocks that have fabric that have a pattern in it that's a bird pattern. So I want to select alternating blocks for putting our design in. Every other block that I've indicated here will be the same pattern. Let's go to Select Pattern. Click on Block Patterns and scroll down until we find the pattern that we want. Quiltmagine comes with over 200 patterns in it. Blocks, continuous line, corner patterns, quad, and triangle patterns. So you have a large selection to choose from. Let's choose this pattern here. Open it up. And you see that it is in the little box at the right. That is the pattern that we have selected. If I click on Place Pattern, you notice that it populates all of the boxes which represent blocks in our quilt top that we had selected. You'll notice that the size of our pattern in our blocks is a little bit small. We need to make that larger to fill in the block more completely rather than just having it in the middle of our block. Over on the right hand side of our screen we have several options. We can size, we can move, and we can change the step of changes when we're doing a change in size. We're going to be doing the size, and you'll notice that we can increase the size top to bottom, right to left, bigger, smaller. We can click maximum or maximum vertically or maximum horizontally. As I'm changing the size of this pattern, I want to keep the ratio of height to width even. So I'm going to lock the aspect ratio right here by clicking on the little lock. Now any changes that I make will be done evenly up and down and right and left within the design. I'm also going to change the increment of change from by step to a bigger change. Otherwise it's just a very tiny change every time I click changing the size. So I'm going to click larger here. And one more time. And it fills out our whole block. That's maybe just a tad bit too big, so let's make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to change the step back down to small and click on the decrease size button, and that brings it in a little bit from the corners, goes out just about into the corners of my blocks the way it looks here on the screen. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and move to the alternate blocks because I want a different pattern in that one. I'm going to click down on the bottom left to highlight the other blocks in our quilt top. Again, I'm going to go to Select Pattern and choose a different pattern. The pattern for the alternate block is called Quad Flake. I will tap on that one, select Open, and it pops into the little box at the right hand portion of my screen. Now by clicking on Place Pattern, because I've already selected the blocks that I want to place it in, it populates it right into the box for me. Again, I will leave this selected here because we need to change the size of that pattern as well so that it fills out the block better. I'm going to click on Step to increase the step as I increase the size of the pattern. Now it's important here to keep all of those blocks selected because if I only had one block selected it would only change the size in that one block. So we want to change it in all of the blocks. So all of them are selected. My aspect ratio lock is on. I will click the Get Larger button, and this time I'm only going to go medium to increase the size, and maybe just a little bit more. There we go. Okay, a little bit more. There we go, filling it out into the corners of the blocks. So there's our design that we're going to use in our quilt top. Before I lose it, I better save it. I will click on the Save button at the top. I have other quilt tops that I have already designed. This is a different one. It came up into my quilt folder where I'm going to save it. I will click on File Name, which brings up my keypad for me to define my name for this quilt top. So Quilt, Q-U-I-L-T, Quilt 1. Enter and save. And we've saved our quilt top. As far as stitching it out, I can either go to stitch it out right from this screen or go back to my main screen and choose Quilt Layout. Select my top, open it up, and I'm ready to quilt the blocks. Quilting the blocks from your quilt layout screen is easy. All I need to do is to select the block that I want to quilt, tap on it to highlight it, and click Quilt down in the bottom right hand corner. Now, because I'm not actually at the machine, this is as far as I can go here. I will need to put my tablet on my machine before I can quilt that block.